Here we are, guys, in part 17 of this story. What if Naruto was smarter than he appeared to be in the manga? What if he resembled his father more than his mother, both physically and psychologically? Naruto is wise and powerful. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now, let's begin. Naruto and Temari lay under their blanket, with a ladder on her side and idly tracing circles on Naruto's chest. Naruto was just looking up to the ceiling, lost in the stars he had decorated on the ceiling. It was something that Temari had done for him. She said she found serenity looking at the stars in the night, and hoped they brought it to him too. Naruto was moved by Temari's love for him. When they came back from Naruto's test fight, they ate the dinner that Temari had her shadow clones prepare. He was impressed that she was able to manifest 5 shadow clones with ease, and much more when he tasted her food. He ate every dish with relish, like a man eating home-cooked food after a long time, which he was. After dinner, Naruto had tried out the jacuzzi of his own home for the first time. And it was a memorable experience, only made more enjoyable by Temari joining him inside. The hot water, with jasmine soap bubbles, just worked wonders to relax his body. As they were getting out of the bath, Naruto finally couldn't hold himself in check-in anymore, which led them to the bedroom. They didn't go all the way though, since Temari regretfully informed him that she had to depart for Suna tomorrow, and as such needed her legs in working condition. Naruto would have been deeply upset by the news, if Temari hadn't shown how skilled she had become in using her mouth. Currently, she just lay beside him, running circles with her fingers on his chest, marveling how hard his muscles had become. When Naruto had first taken off his clothes for their bath, Temari had frozen for several moments when she saw his spectacularly improved form, much to her embarrassment. Of course, Naruto had no such shame in gawking at her body when she removed her bathrobe. Temari had filled out, in the ways only women could. She had gotten rid of almost all the baby fat she had, except for her face. It was narrower than before, but still held hints of baby fat. Her stomach had at least according to women's standards, defined six-pack. Her hips had become deliciously rounded, followed down by toned thighs. Last but not the least, her bust had wonderfully matured, becoming much more rounded with perky nipples. She was even more beautiful without her clothes. "You know, I never knew you had such an impressive growth curve, Temari," Naruto commented, never taking his eyes off the stars. Temari gave a small smile at that. "Maybe that's because you've never actually seen it with your own eyes? I didn't have much problem when learning Fuuten ninjutsu and growing up." He finally turned his eyes to her, a fond look in his eyes. "That could be one of the reasons. From your words, it seems like we both have an instinctive grasp on learning. But I like to think that you're just that badass." A haughty smirk was her response. "Damn straight." But then the smirk faded and a melancholic look appeared in her eyes. "Naruto." Sensing that the conversation had turned emotional, Naruto shifted until he was face to face with Temari, his lips a hair's breadth from hers. "What is it, Temari?" Temari gulped down her nervousness. Naruto's voice was a whisper that was only loud enough to be heard by her, and their lack of clothing wasn't helping her gather the seriousness needed for what she was about to tell him. Still, she took a deep breath and said, "Naruto. While I was away training. I had a disturbing realization." Naruto frowned in concern. "Tell me about it." Temari recounted all that her master had told her about Akatsuki's activity. "The S-ranked mercenary group, Akatsuki, they're after you, aren't they?" She watched as guilt flashed across his face for a second, before being replaced by Grim. "Technically, they're after Kurama and my stomach, but yes, they're after me." Temari's face became pained. "Then why didn't you tell me?" Naruto couldn't help the wince. Her voice was filled with accusation and betrayal. "Temari, I didn't want you to be worried over me." If Naruto had been wearing a shirt right now, Temari would have grabbed it, pulled him closer in frustration and slapped him. As such, in her current situation she could only beat her fist on his chest. "Naruto, I'm your wife, damn it. How can I not worry over you?" Naruto's expression became downcast. "If I had told you about the Akatsuki, you would have been distracted from your training, Temari. It would have only bothered me if I was the reason you couldn't train properly. There's a reason why our friends don't know about them, and I'm not at liberty to tell." Naruto's words were sincere, but Temari was more hurt by the fact that he kept this from her. "You have a group of S-rank terrorists after you, and you kept this from me so I could concentrate on my training? You're more important to me than training, Naruto. Without you." Her voice became softer as she tried to find words to make him understand. "I wouldn't know what to do." Naruto palmed the side of her face. "And you're more important to me than anything else. I want you to be happy, but I can't do that if I'm not even here, right? You were my motivation during my training, Temari. I wanted to be strong enough to protect both of us. And I know that you love me, there are no doubts about that. But in our world, love isn't strong enough by itself. You need to be strong as well." He paused for a moment and then chuckled, "Man, I sound like an old man." Temari was suddenly tired of talking about the subject. She knew that Naruto had her best interests in mind, but sometimes she felt that Naruto relied more on logic and less on emotion. He did have social cues, but sometimes she felt that they were lacking. "So what's your reason for not contacting me?" Naruto's question snapped her out of her thoughts. She sighed, emotional exhaustion only increasing. "Tsunade was the one who told me that no one was to contact you and Jiraiya except for her, for she was the one who assigned you missions. That was the first thing she told me when she gave me the pad." Naruto gave a thoughtful hum. "Well, that's definitely a Hokage's decision. I gotta thank her for telling me that." Temari felt anger stirring in her. He was taking her talk too lightly. And why is that? The anger must have bled into her tone, for he immediately kissed her. Naruto really had some sort of magic in his kisses, for the anger suddenly disappeared. It seemed that staying angry at Naruto for too long was something that not many people could do. She melted into the kisses, their lips moving against each other in an incredibly sensual manner. It wasn't helping Temari's case as the close body contact made it hard to be angry. Naruto pulled away first, her lower lip in his grasp. He smirked in satisfaction when he heard her quiet moan of disappointment. "I would have gotten distracted. Besides, you haven't seen even the half of what I'm capable of now." Temari's eyes grew wide. "Have you improved that much in just 3 years?" Naruto just kept smirking, choosing not to answer her question. He rolled over, turning his back to her, yawning loudly. "I'm feeling tired, Temari. Let's sleep." "What the you don't get to leave me hanging like that, Naruto." She shook him, but Naruto was fast asleep in seconds, a skill he had developed on his trip with Jiraiya. Temari grumbled to herself, but turned away from him and closed her eyes. She was still upset with him, no matter how many kisses he peppered her with. XXXXXXX. Naruto didn't know whether to be impressed or put out. He had left early in the morning to get in some training. Leaving the bed proved to be quite an arduous task for him. Temari clinging to him in her birthday suit, the incredible warmth that was the result of the blanket in close contact with Temari, and Temari half draped over him, pushing onto his morning wood, which had been standing at full attention. Despite her claims to be upset with him, she was surprisingly clingy. It was definitely a good thing that she hadn't come with him and Jiraiya, otherwise he wasn't sure he would be able to train with his attention split between training and Temari. Now that he was back, he eyed the breakfast in front of him. 6 boiled eggs, perfectly cut into pieces and arranged on the plate, sprinkled on with salt and pepper and a glass of milk. Breakfast of champions, he thought dryly. He had hoped to have breakfast with her, but it seemed that she was still trying to pretend that she was upset with him. Which was why she left before he came back. As he bit into the eggs, he wondered what kind of mission would Tsunade give his team. Now that the team was comprised of 2S ranks, it would be a disappointment if they received anything less than a high B rank. He still had a total of 40 minutes before he had to report at the mission's desk. Plenty of time. Meanwhile, at the Hokage Tower, Tsunade was at her desk, glancing disdainfully at the pile of paperwork that awaited her. She couldn't understand why Naruto wanted to be Hokage if this was the crap they had to deal with every day. With a sigh of defeat, she sat down on her desk to begin. Mentally exhausting, isn't it? She glanced up to see her sensei, Sarutobi Hiruzen, standing in the middle of the office, the barest of smirks on his face. Hiruzen hadn't changed at all in the past 3 years. After being retired, he had much more time to manage his clan affairs himself. His shoulders were much more relaxed, now that he didn't need to think about the good of the village all the time. After a long time, he could finally focus on training Konohamaru. The young Sarutobi had been begging him to train him, for when Naruto Nichan came back, he at least wanted to be capable enough of making him sweat. Even though Asuma was lazy even when it came to training his team, he was unexpectedly put out when Konohamaru said he didn't want him to train him. "I've seen how lazy you are even with your own team, Oji-san. And I really want to get stronger by doing something instead of just playing shogi all day." It was a hilarious moment for the Sarutobi clan. Asuma understood for the first time what his nephew thought of him, and he was not at all accepting of the fact. He began training Team 10 much more seriously from then on, which Hiruzen considered a good change. He still smoked almost all the time, despite of her warnings to him that he was just damaging his lungs. But he just smoked away her worries. Tsunade sighed. I feel tired just by looking at it. Hiruzen came around to sit on the chair in front of her desk. You have no idea of how much it pleases my soul to see you sitting in the chair of Hokage. Tsunade narrowed her eyes at the comment. Others might think that you're pleased because I took over from you, but I know that you're a sadist, sensei. You're just completely satisfied to see me buried in paperwork that we used to tease you about. Hiruzen just kept a calm face. I have no idea what you're talking about. Smug bastard. So, what's reason you came here for, sensei? Hiruzen took a deep inhale from his ever-present pipe. I heard Naruto and Jiraiya returned yesterday, with another Uzumaki no less. Tsunade nodded as she signed another paper. Uzumaki Haruto. What do you think about him? Just as Tsunade was about to say something, the door to her office banged 3 times. Hokage-sama. Both former and current Hokage blinked. That was Tamari's voice, and it sounded urgent and desperate. Come in. As soon as she gave the order, the door slammed open and Tamari almost rushed in, an expression of barely kept in check panic on her face. What is it, Tamari? Tsunade-sama, it's Gaara. He's been taken by the Akatsuki. Both of the Hokage's eyes widened at the information. The mercenary organization chose now of all times to make their move? Just as Naruto returned from his training? It couldn't be a coincidence, could it? How do you know? I was contacted through my pad. Tsunade took a moment to curse as to why she wasn't directly contacted before turning her attention to the matter at hand. She was well aware how close Gaara and Naruto were, and the latter would never forgive her if he wasn't put on the rescue team, even if he were a Jinchuriki, and sending him on the mission was basically holding him out on a silver platter for Akatsuki. Tsunade glanced at the clock and cursed. There were still 15 minutes before Naruto's team was supposed to report for a mission, but she had no choice. They were already out of time. Tora, Karasu, Nezumi, Anbu with masks of cat, crow and rat respectively, appeared behind Tamari, kneeling before Tsunade. Hi, Hokage-sama? Fetch Hatake Kakashi, Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Naruto immediately. They are to be here within 5 minutes. Understood, Hokage-sama. With that, they disappeared in the sunshine. Hiruzen leveled a grave look at his student. Tsunade, do you think it's wise to send Naruto on this mission, when he is exactly what the Akatsuki want? Naruto beat Jiraiya at his best, and took out Kakashi without a problem, sensei. On top of that, he's mastered the Hiraishin. At this point, he might very well be the strongest ninja in the village. He can take care of himself. Tsunade almost snapped at Hiruzen. Hiruzen gave a tired sigh. Let's hope you're right, Tsunade. XXXXXXX. Less than 5 minutes later, Team 7 stood in front of her, standing at attention. Tsunade looked at each member with a sharp and steady gaze. Team 7. A few hours ago in Suna, word came to us through Tamari's pad that the Kazekage was taken by 2 Akatsuki members. Hiruzen carefully observed the reactions to the revelation. Sakura was the one who showed the most shock, followed by sadness from Tamari due to the reminder. Kakashi and Naruto showed the least amount of reaction. Kakashi's eye narrowed, as it always did whenever a particularly difficult mission was assigned to him. He would try to figure out every possible way the mission could be carried out, and every possible consequence should the mission fail. He was very good at that. Naruto's expression didn't change in the slightest, but his fists tightened ever so slightly. Hiruzen mentally approved, for as much as he loathed Danzo's ways, he was right in the sense that emotions got in the way of a mission. He would have understood if Naruto got angry, or went into shock, but to have such a tight control on his emotions. Jiraiya was one hell of a teacher. Tsunade continued speaking. Therefore, you are to exercise extreme caution, and do everything in your power to get the Kazekage back. Failure is detrimental for both the nations. Is that clear? Hi, Hokage-sama. Dismissed. XXXXXXX. How the hell did the attack succeed when Suna was expecting it? Naruto snapped, matching his stride with Tamari. Gaara informed me that Suna took yours and Jiraiya-sama's warnings seriously, Naruto, Tamari insisted with a glare. I don't know how, but they caught Gaara regardless. They are no joke, like you told us. S-rank heavyweights, Naruto sighed. Don't worry, Tamari, we will get your brother back, by any means necessary. You've never broken a promise, Naruto. I hope this mission doesn't change that. Temari muttered worriedly. She might have been upset at him last night, but having been reminded what was at stake now, being upset for not remaining in touch with her during training seemed like a petty tantrum that a child would throw. Not a jonin. They traveled as fast as they could, and when the night arrived, they didn't take a rest. Lack of sight wasn't a problem, for their path was illuminated by the moonlight. Naruto turned his head back slightly, to show that he was listening. What is it, Sakura? What would happen to Gaara, if his Baijuu were to be removed? Naruto's expression went from neutral to grave, and Temari had a bad feeling about what he was going to say. We have to be realistic here, Sakura. We have to assume the worst-case scenario, which in this mission is, that Gaara will have his Baijuu removed. In fact, they've already begun the process by now, most probably. Sakura gasped, and Temari looked even more crestfallen. Our Baijuu were sealed into us from birth, as is the case with most of our kind. There are exceptions, but I'll not go into details for that. Our bodies and chakra have been adjusting right from the beginning, to sustain both of us. Removal of a Baijuu would destroy the chakra network completely. It's like ripping our hearts out of our bodies. The result of that is, most certainly, death. Almost immediately. Temari was now gripped by fear, imagining Gaara's lifeless body in front of her. Like a whiplash, it hit her that that was the fate that awaited her husband, should he get caught. But that was a small possibility, and she tried not to think about it. Almost immediately? Sakura's exclamation knocked her out of her musings, as she concentrated on Naruto's answer. There are exceptions, of course. That raised Temari's hopes a little. Kyuubi's first Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Mito, lived for 3 more years before dying in her sleep. She was 113 when the new Jinchuriki was chosen. Kakashi spoke up for the first time. Not surprising, considering the Uzumaki clan is well known for their longevity and potent life force. So if Naruto were in Gaara's place, would he? Temari dare not finish the sentence. Surprisingly, Naruto smirked. As if I would allow myself to be in that situation. Then his face turned somber, on the off chance, if I do get in that situation, I'm not sure whether I would survive or not. But you are Uzumaki. I'm half Uzumaki. There is a world of difference in that. One more day before we reach the desert, Temari said quietly. But I don't recall telling you about my secret, Sakura, Naruto curiously inquired. Sakura swallowed before answering. Tsunade-sama told me about your confrontation with Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame. They're both involved with Akatsuki, but why are they taking the Baijuu? Naruto was impressed by the depth of her question, but didn't let it show. At this point, only the Akatsuki know that. They started off with the Ichibi, but whether that says something about the order they are gathering the Baijuu in, I'm not sure. One can only imagine that they are up to no good if they're after all of them. Whatever the end result is, it would have catastrophic consequences on the world. With that, they once again descended into silence. Naruto wondered if they would be able to succeed. He had not revealed the entirety of the worst-case scenario. More like, the result of it. He wouldn't be surprised if Kakashi was the only one who picked up on the fact. They would be bringing back Gaara's dead body, and that thought filled him with rage. Night slowly became morning, and the dawn's light made itself visible over the top of the trees. Naruto finally spotted the end of the tree line, and jumped to the ground, followed by others. He looked at Temari, who nodded. I'll take it from here. With that, they began traveling the sands. Naruto had to admit, the desert was annoyingly hot. If his clothes did not have the seals for keeping him cool, he would have been sweating by now. Now that he thought about it, how the hell was Kakashi not cooking in his mask? Naruto shook those thoughts away. The mysteries of Kakashi's mask were beyond anyone's understanding except the man himself. Sakura had been thinking hard about the mission they had departed on. From what Tsunade-sama had told her, and Naruto had confirmed for her, Akatsuki were after the Baijuu inside the Jinchuriki. But that meant... Why did Tsunade-sama allow you to come, Naruto? You are exactly what they are after, Sakura hissed with a fierce glare. And why should Jinchuriki be forced on the sidelines? It is their right to decide whether they want to remain on the sidelines, or on the front lines. Temari retorted, taking offense on behalf of Gaara and Naruto. Let's save the debate for the after-mission dinner, Naruto coolly suggested, but his eyes held a warning glint. Now is not the time. Sakura and Temari wisely took the hint and fell silent. They kept traveling for 2 more hours before the gates of Suna came to view. Temari did not even greet the guards, running straight inside the village. Temari-san. Kankuro was poisoned. The guard ninja shouted to their backs. Temari stumbled only briefly, before increasing her pace to the main tower. Sakura came up to her side. "Take me to him quickly. I'm a medical specialist." Temari gave a stiff nod and they both raced forwards, with Naruto and Kakashi following behind. They were the last two to arrive in the room, 2 minutes after Temari and Sakura. Naruto took stock of the people present in the room within seconds. There were a few Iryo ninja, and elderly men who Naruto did not know, Kankuro lying on the bed and an old woman whose hair was in a bun, and Baki. Just as they entered the room, the elderly couple turned towards them, and he saw recognition flash in her eyes. Interestingly, it wasn't aimed at him, but rather at his silver-haired sensei. Naruto raised an eyebrow in perplexation when the woman literally snarled, "Konoha no Shiroi Kiba." Eh? Kakashi's thoughts halted for a second, not used to being confused for his father for such a long time after his death. The woman shot forward with speed that was unbecoming for someone of her age, but Naruto immediately reacted. He easily grabbed her fist, a surprisingly heavy punch, he noted, blocked her foot with his knee and caught her other fist. With that taken care of, he lightly pushed her back. She skidded back and stood up, shockingly not winded at all. The room was silent as everyone watched them. Naruto dusted off his pants and regarded her with slight annoyance. "Take a good look, elder. This is Hatake Kakashi, not Hatake Sakumo." But like every old person that thinks themselves wise, she casually brushed aside his statement. "Don't mock me. I'll get my revenge for my son today. Looks like Sakumo-san killed her son in the war, and now she wants revenge," he deduced, shifting his feet slightly upon seeing her advance. But the woman was stopped by the elder man. "Ne-chan, he's right. There is a resemblance, yes, but he is not Hatake Sakumo." "Huh?" the woman muttered, eyes narrowing and straining to look. Then, as if a switch was flipped, she suddenly started laughing. "Oh. I was just playing stupid. Ha 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 ha." Kakashi sighed in relief, not quite sure what he would have done if he had to fight an elder of Suna. Naruto, on the other hand, was distinctly unimpressed by her antics. "We've got a life and death situation on our hands, and you're playing around? I wonder if we should be concerned about your order of priorities are, elder." There was dead silence in the room at Naruto's statement, with Temari giving him a sharp look. The elder man gave an inscrutable look to him, after which he labeled an annoyed look at his sister, who turned her head to the side and muttered out an apology. Naruto got the feeling that the old man approved of him. Sakura brought the room back to business and proceeded to removing the poison directly from Kankuro. Temari sank against a wall in relief. "Thank God. God isn't here." "I'll take that, thanks," Naruto quipped as he sat down beside her. "Oh, shut up," she grumbled. From then on, Naruto kept an ear out for the conversations happening around the room. There was Sakura talking to the Iryonin about what they should keep an eye out for, Chio-san talking to her about medicines, Baki and Kakashi talking about a fight between Kankuro and a puppeteer named Sasori. That name seems somewhat familiar, Naruto mused, taking out his bingo book. Flipping through the pages, he found what he was looking for. Sasori of the Red Sands, a puppeteer who left Suna 18 years ago. A genius of puppets, specializing in poison. And apparently, Chio's grandson. "No doubt, we'll meet this guy on this mission." Kankuro said something about a piece of cloth, causing Temari to shoot up from her position and hover over him worriedly. So his brother-in-law managed to snatch a piece of cloth from Sasori in case they needed to track him? Smart guy. Kankuro gave a small smile at the sight of his sister, before looking around the room. His smile widened when he spotted Naruto against the wall, flipping through a bingo book. "Come to rescue your brother, eh, Naruto?" Naruto glanced up from his book, giving a smile and a silent nod. Kakashi gave a sharp nod to Baki, clutching the cloth in his hands. "We'll find them. My pack just needs to smell this." "Allow me, Kakashi." Kakashi and Baki turned to Naruto, who flipped his book shut and walked towards them. "Allow me to use my foxes. They've been complaining lately that I don't give them enough work to do." Kakashi smirked under his mask. "You should be taking better care of them, you know." "I don't want to hear that from you of all people," was the retort. Naruto bit his thumb and slammed his palm on the ground. Kushios no Jutsu. There was a flash of smoke, and when it cleared, 6 foxes of various colors were crouched before him. This was the primary tracking squad of the Kitsune. The one crouched in front of all the foxes, a fox whose fur was as black as the night and a white dipped in tail end, spoke up. This was Toshi, Raiden's elder brother and a close friend of Naruto's. "It's been a while, Naruto." Naruto nodded sympathetically. "I know, but I need you right now. Track this guy for me please?" All the foxes came around the hand and sniffed eagerly at the cloth. Toshi finished sniffing, and gave the order. "All right. Scatter." The foxes immediately vanished from sight, with only Toshi remaining behind. "We'll contact you as soon as we find him." With that, he too vanished from sight. They only had to wait a few hours before one of the foxes came back. Its fur was a regular orange, and there was a sense of satisfaction on its features. "Naruto-sama. I found them." After pointing out on a map where the Akatsuki were holed up, Naruto smiled and patted the fox's head. "Well done, Tenka. You can go." "Wait Naruto." Tenka and Naruto turned to Kakashi, who walked towards them. "Would you mind if I send you out on one more task?" In answer, Tenka just looked at Naruto. Naruto just rolled his eyes and took out a storage scroll from one of his pockets, unsealed a piece of meat and tossed it to Tenka. The fox quickly ate it up and turned to Kakashi. "What's it?" After explaining to Tenka where he needed to go, the fox immediately took off. Naruto stood up as well. "We should depart immediately, Kakashi. We know where they are, we know where Gaara is, and we're going to take him right from their grasp." Kakashi nodded at the strategy. That was all they could do at this point. "I'll inform Sakura." Within an hour, they left Suna. At first, it was a surprise to all of them that Chiyo-san was coming with them, and Temari was stationed back at Suna, according to Tsunade's orders. Traveling swiftly, it only took them a few hours to enter Kawa no Kuni. "I don't like this, Kakashi," Naruto muttered. Kakashi moved so that he was side by side with Naruto. "They've gone far. I have no idea how long it takes to extract a Baijiu, but it shouldn't be long considering it's only the Ichibi." "You know of the tailed beasts?" Chio asked from behind. "Who doesn't?" Naruto easily answered. Chio conceded his point. He wasn't going to tell her that he had won himself. Not when they'd just met, and he suspected the granny had knocked off a few of her screws. "I haven't kept in touch with news concerning the tailed beasts for quite a while. Last time I did, it was when I sealed Ichibi into Gaara." She was taken aback when cold, azure eyes snapped back at her, as cold as chips of ice. There was a barely held back rage in them, but just when she thought he would snap at her, he turned back and focused ahead. Just when he was about to speak to Kakashi, there was a flicker on his radar. He immediately stopped, holding up a fist. The others stopped right with him, posture alert. Naruto scanned the surroundings with a keen eye, all senses on high alert. "What is it, Naruto?" Kakashi asked. Naruto's brow furrowed. "It was a brief flicker, but I can't sense anymore. Whatever it was, or is, doesn't seem to want to engage." "Did you catch that, Kurama?" "I did, but like you, I can't sense it anymore." "Then it's not worth wasting time on." Naruto motioned for them to move again. It was when they had only won a few miles when Naruto sensed something again. "Someone is ahead of us, 1 mile," Naruto informed everyone. Chio was impressed by the young man. While being a Jonin, the senior-most ninja usually has the authority on the mission. But Hatake Kakashi seemed to have no problems with Naruto leading this mission. The blonde seemed to be in his element as he led without hesitation. Soon enough, they broke through the tree line and came face to face with Uchiha Itachi. Kakashi breathed out, and Naruto saw Sakura instantly freeze in shock. There was no mistaking it. Slashed headband, black cloak with red clouds, tear troughs on face and the distinctive red eyes of the Sharingan. The clearing was silent as Itachi most likely analyzed everything he could about them, trying to assess weaknesses. "It's been a while, Kakashi-san, Naruto-kun." Itachi greeted them in a quiet, polite voice. "It has, hasn't it, Itachi-san? Last time I saw you, I was running circles around you and your partner," Naruto replied. "You have grown quite strong, I see, Naruto-kun," Itachi complimented in a quiet voice, not acknowledging the taunt. Itachi said nothing else, simply staring with his Sharingan into Naruto's azures. Naruto just averted his eyes and focused on Itachi's forehead. He wasn't afraid of being caught in a genjutsu. Regular genjutsu was a child's play for him, and he had Kurama to break him out of Sharingan genjutsu. He silently released all his gravity seals. "Don't look into his eyes. It's dangerous," Kakashi ordered tersely. "Then it's fortunate that there are 4 of us," Chio spoke. Fighting a Sharingan user alone is often a recipe for disaster, but since we outnumber him, We can attack from multiple directions and prevent him from using his Sharingan against more than one of us. Also, if we get caught in any of his genjutsu, the others can break it. That was the strategy that was developed long ago for combat situations against an Uchiha. Normally, that would work, but Itachi has the Mangekyo Sharingan. The genjutsu cast by the Mangekyo run their full duration in an instant. The victim will feel the full effects of the illusion, as if 3 days have passed. Don't look him in the eyes. Kakashi added, remembering far too well what it felt like to be stabbed with a sword for what felt like a small eternity. As one would expect from you, Kakashi-san. You understood all that after being affected only once. That's not the only thing that I've understood, Kakashi continued, staring at Itachi fearlessly. After you used the genjutsu on me, you were considerably tired and tried to leave as soon as possible. Itachi said nothing to refute Kakashi's statements, which made Naruto wonder just how much Kakashi knew about Itachi's eyes. Apart from using a lot of chakra, your eyes seem to also carry a risk with every usage. Kakashi uncovered his headband slowly, revealing his own Sharingan. Itachi looked as blank as ever, not reacting in the slightest. Well analyzed, Kakashi-san. Not only that, but, tell me this, how bad has your eyesight gotten? Kakashi must have said something significant, because for the second time since Naruto had seen the man, Itachi was visibly startled. So much that he closed his eyes for a moment to settle himself on the inside. When he opened his eyes, they were back to being as blank as a wall. There was a moment where Kakashi and Itachi simply stared at each other. Naruto understood that Itachi must have attempted to catch Kakashi in a genjutsu once more. Then Itachi looked down, and back at Kakashi. You. Kakashi's response was quite chirpy, given the tense situation. Not this time, Itachi. Then in a quieter voice, he told Naruto, take this one, Naruto. I'll cover you. Got it. Itachi slowly pointed a finger at Naruto, not averting his gaze from Kakashi at all. It's time for you to come with me, Naruto-kun. Naruto simply raised an eyebrow as he snapped the genjutsu before it could take hold on him. His chakra density and capacity had only increased in 3 years, and Itachi's considerably less potent chakra had no chance of catching him in one. Genjutsu without seals? You're as good as they say. With that, everyone snapped into action. Naruto dashed forward, engaging Itachi in taijutsu. It immediately became evident just how huge the difference was between Itachi and the Sasuke he fought 3 years ago. Itachi had no problem whatsoever in predicting his moves, easily keeping up with them. Itachi showed his mastery of switching from hand to weapons, as a kunai appeared in his hand and he tried to slash Naruto with it. Naruto countered with his own kunai, and they once again locked themselves in a fight. It became evident to Itachi, however, after Naruto's kunai came too close to his eyes more than once, that taijutsu was not the way to go in a fight against Naruto. He jumped back, putting Sakura in a genjutsu and then speeding through seals. Katen, Hosenka no Jutsu. A multitude of fireballs came towards them, scattering from Itachi's mouth. Kakashi jumped back to avoid them, while Naruto took a direct approach. Taking advantage of his faster perception, he jumped out of the field of the fireballs and then straight at Itachi, all in 2 flash steps. It seemed Itachi wasn't expecting that and was not in a position to dodge, for his foot caught Itachi in his side, sending him flying back. Itachi nimbly flipped in the air to make a perfect landing on the ground. Naruto didn't push his assault, choosing to stand his ground. He now had a sure shot at killing Itachi, but if he and Kakashi pushed him a bit more, maybe they could learn more about the Sharingan's techniques, in case he went up against Sasuke in a fight in the future. He had been informed that there was a higher stage of Sharingan, and wondered what abilities did that give to Itachi. Kakashi jumped to his side. Nice one. Thanks. But no more time was given for talking, for Itachi sent another jutsu their way. Katen, Gokaku no Jutsu. A giant fireball made its way right at them, but Naruto didn't move out of the way. Instead, he performed 2 hand seals. In his training trip, he had created a jutsu just for this situation. Bird Dog. Fuuten, Piasu Fu Yari. A thin, sharp burst of wind escaped his mouth in a straight line, the tip shaped into a spear. To Kakashi's shock, as soon as Naruto's jutsu collided with the fireball, they didn't clash. The wind jutsu went straight through the core of the fireball, dispersing it completely. A fire-like gate formed for the briefest of moments as the fireball dispersed, and the wind spear headed straight for Itachi, who was not expecting his fireball to be dispersed just like that. His moment of confusion cost him the fight, as the spear pierced right through the center of his chest, opening up a thin hole from which blood leaked through. But Itachi had already left their body, the instant when the wind spear pierced the heart. XXXXXXX. Itachi's hologram opened its eyes in the cave where the Ichibi was being extracted, seeing that Kisame had also been defeated a short while ago. Itachi frowned as he thought of the battle he had just lost. He had only a vague idea how that wind technique dispersed his fireball like that. Wind was supposed to be weak against fire, and could only beat fire if it were in an overwhelming amount. But Naruto's jutsu was very thin, supposed to pierce. Focused on efficiency rather than power. He supposed that the wind in that jutsu was thin enough to pierce the fireball at its core, thereby dispersing it, but that was just a theory. Had that been a real battle, Itachi doubted he would have been able to use Susanoo in time. Looking at the bingo book entry was one thing, experiencing it was a whole different one. Even without Hiraishin, Naruto had become a very dangerous man. Looks like me and my man Sasori will be capturing the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Deidara said, pleased that he would get one up on Itachi. Itachi, what can you tell us about the Kyuubi no Jinchuriki? Sasori asked in Hiruko's gravelly voice. Itachi stayed silent, thinking of what to say. On one hand, he wouldn't reveal Naruto's techniques, because he didn't know them himself. Naruto hadn't used Hiraishin in the battle even once, and not many people kept bingo books with them, even majority members of the Akatsuki. People like Deidara and Hidan were fools, not bothering to keep themselves up to date with the happenings of the ninja world. He would keep it that way. On the other hand, he needed to give them something. Answer him, Itachi, Pain commanded, his voice distorted in the hologram. He's the blonde one, Itachi said in a monotone, revealing nothing of importance and cut his connection. He could always use the excuse that his illness was acting up. XXXXXXX. I'm not entirely surprised. That was way too easy, Naruto mumbled, looking at the corpse of a Suna shinobi. Now I know what happened to Ura, Chio muttered. Naruto didn't bother to apologize like Kakashi did. There was no doubt in his mind that this Suna shinobi was dead long before Naruto killed him. Again. That, and he was most likely a spy. A loose end that the Akatsuki tied up. That's a good point. But Naruto didn't say that out loud, in case he was wrong. Even if that wasn't Itachi, we were beaten, Kakashi sighed. It was a delaying tactic, also meant to gather info on us. Indeed. I would say, they've already started the extraction. Perhaps they wish to use Shukaku to create a new Jinchuriki? Chio speculated. That's a negative, Naruto instantly answered, standing up from where he was inspecting the corpse for any clues. They spent a lot of time and effort to extract the Baijuu from the Jinchuriki. I really don't think they're gonna create a new one, if their primary purpose was extraction. That could be true. In any case, let's put a pin on that theory for now. We have to hurry, Kakashi ordered, moving into the trees once more. As they moved through the trees, Chio once more thought deeply about her current companions. She had been sure that when Kankuro was poisoned, there would be no one except Tsunade who could cure him. Sasori was a rare genius when it came to poisons, and any poison he made was always kept for his personal use and no one else's. That's why Suna had no counter against the former sand puppeteer's specialty. Then the pink-haired Kunoichi's efforts, who turned out to be Tsunade's apprentice, were invaluable in saving Kankuro's life. Naruto-kun? Naruto turned his head back slightly, to show he was listening. What? Chio had a feeling that he was somewhat upset with her, but decided not to bring it up. Why did Konoha send such a valuable team for Kazekage-sama's retrieval? Konoha's best Jonin, son of the Yondaime Hokage and Godaime Hokage's apprentice, seems a bit overkill. Naruto turned his head back, but she could hear a smirk in his voice. Let me guess, you expected some nameless, expendable ninjas, didn't you? The silence was his answer. It would be better if you didn't put so much importance in titles, boss-an. Skill is what ultimately counts. Besides, I think the rescue of someone as important as the Kazekage warrants the deployment of the most skilled team. Chio wasn't sure if she agreed with his first statement, but he was correct with his last. But still. Why such a high-profile team? In my time. Your time is over, boss-an. Times are ever-changing, and our generation is different from all the previous ones. Because we'll do something none of the previous generations were able to. Us coming on this mission is a sign of trust, that Konoha trusts Suna. You may think that in your time, even if villages were allies, they never really trusted each other. But like I said, times are changing, and you have to keep up. Naruto gave a succinct answer, and hoped she wouldn't ask any more questions. Chio was now starting to see why Temari admired him so much. His steadfast belief in himself, that he could change everything about the ninja world and shatter all existing beliefs, was worth respecting. When the match was first decided, Chio believed that Temari would never be happy in Konoha. That her every dream would be crushed by the choice she was being forced to make. She was wrong. Ever since Temari started visiting recently, she had talked about her life in Konoha. And Chio had to admit, she had never seen Temari talk about someone with so much love and admiration. Temari had always been a girl who had a tough personality, so her husband had to be something else if he could make her talk like that. XXXXXXX. Kakashi. My youthful rival. You're late. Guy announced as soon as they landed. Apologies, we got caught up a bit by something troublesome, Kakashi said in a light tone. Sakura-san. And Naruto-kun. Your fox got us here quite fast. Naruto and Sakura turned to the excited voice, and a smile appeared on Naruto's face when he saw Lee. Aside from his height, nothing had changed. Naruto. Naruto turned to his left. Neji had grown as well, standing only an inch or two shorter than him. He too had a small smile on his face, and just from the look in his eyes Naruto could tell that he had matured. Naruto gave him a nod. Let's catch up after this mission. We've got work to do. And just like that, the atmosphere turned dead serious. Kakashi walked up to the seal placed on the boulder, studying it for a moment. This is a 5-seal barrier, which means we have to remove 4 other seals to remove this one. He then turned to Neji. Neji. Hi. Neji activated his Byakugan, eyes searching for a signature identical to the seal in front of him. One on top of a rock about 500 meters northwest, one on no need. Neji stopped abruptly as everyone present stared at Naruto, who was studying the seal intently. He turned to Neji. No need to waste your chakra and stamina. I can take it down from here. But, wasn't this barrier specifically made to be impossible to remove without removing the other seals? Kakashi asked in surprise. He didn't know much about seals, but what he did was useful enough for him. You're not a seal master and therefore don't think like one. That is where your problem lies, Kakashi. Naruto took out his fountain pen, filled with sealing ink. Everyone just stared at the blonde in stupefaction, who jumped onto the boulder and started writing seals on the seal tag. The first question that popped in everyone's minds was why Naruto was using a pen, instead of the normal sealing brush. Only Tenten came forward. I didn't know you could also use a pen in sealing, Naruto. Naruto didn't look away for a second, nor did his expression change. Why not? Fill the sealing ink in a pen and I don't see why that can't be used. People think way too much inside the box for my taste. Though it was not intended to be a mock, Tenten blushed sheepishly. She was no master, but she liked to think that she had an above-average knowledge of Fuinjutsu for her age. She had been trying to think of a way to take the barrier down some other way than splitting up, but couldn't think of any. And then Naruto comes and announces in less than a minute that he could take this down. She had no idea just how big of a gap was between her and Naruto. What are you doing, Naruto? Tenten asked, trying to make sense of the characters Naruto was writing around the tag. Naruto smirked a little. Interested in sealing, are you? I'm simply rerouting the flow of chakra. The other 4 tags are set up around this one, with this one being in the center. I'm stopping the flow of chakra in the other 4 tags, so instead of flowing, it will continue to build up to a point where it explodes. With the others out of the way, this one will be rendered obsolete. Naruto stopped writing and put his pen back. Best stand back. I have no idea what the reaction will be, he warned. Everyone rapidly shuffled away, not wanting to be caught in the blast. Naruto was only a bit disappointed when instead of an explosion, the tag simply fizzled out with a bit of heat. But in 4 other places, the explosion was so huge that it formed mushroom clouds high up in the sky. Looks like some clever bastard set those up, Naruto commented idly. Yosh. Your skill in Fuinjutsu is so great that it exploded with youth, Lee declared, with fire in his eyes. Surely, Naruto said, because he had no idea how to reply to that. He turned to Sakura, smash it. We're moving in. Without wasting time, Sakura moved forward and smashed her gloved fist into the boulder, causing it to crumble into pieces. As soon as the dust cleared, the 2 teams jumped into the cave and spread out, keeping a sharp eye on the 2 figures inside. Naruto froze for just a second, before clenching his fists in order to control at least some of his anger. Gaara, he whispered through gritted teeth. His sight was set on the figure that dared to sit on his friend's corpse, looking completely nonchalant. They were too late. That one whisper stopped them all. Kakashi turned to Naruto, and while his expression was inscrutable, that whisper spoke clearly the truth that no one wanted to hear. "Focus, Naruto. We'll deal with this later." Kurama spoke quietly in his mind, but even his voice was laced with rage. Naruto took a deep breath and relaxed himself. No need to give the enemy something to taunt. "Which one of you is the Jinchuriki, I wonder?" The blonde guy spoke loftily, a smirk on his face that confirmed him as the target of Naruto's wrath. He had some resemblance to himself, with his blonde hair in a ponytail and blue eyes, the left one being covered with a bang of his hair. The other one was hunched over, as if having a back problem, and a hardened look on his face with a scrap of cloth tied around his jaw. His smirk dimmed a bit as his eyes came to rest on Naruto's face, and a glance at his headband told Naruto why. He was from Iwa, and Iwa hated blonde people with blue eyes. "You're the Mad Bomber of Iwa and Sasori of the Red Sands, aren't you?" It wasn't a statement. There was no reaction from the hunched guy, but the blonde was clearly pleased that Naruto knew who he was. Still, his question went unanswered. Instead, the blonde asked a question of his own. He raised a finger towards Naruto. "Is it you?" "No." Deidara faltered a little at the blunt answer, but looked a little angry. "Don't lie to me. Itachi told us it was you. So why the heck are you asking again?" Naruto asked, looking as if truly perplexed by Deidara's actions. Deidara grit his teeth. This Jinchuriki was embarrassing him in front of everyone. "I'll take the Jinchuriki, he announced, angry eyes trained on Naruto. Sasori simply looked at him out of the corner of his eye. "You know the rules, one person to one beast." Sakura felt anger bubbling up inside her. How dare they refer to Naruto as a beast? Flickering her eyes, she observed that others had also tensed up, readying up for action. "Quite confident of your victory, aren't you?" Naruto asked in a challenging tone. Deidara perked up on seeing the fire in Naruto's eyes. He smirked, keeping his eyes on Naruto while speaking to his partner. "He'll inspire my art." "What you do isn't art, Deidara. Art is something that should last eternally," Sasori admonished Deidara. "Huh? What sort of crap is that?" "True art is fleeting, in an explosion," Deidara argued back. Deidara stood up, a strange white bird seemingly made of clay moving forward and picking Gaara's body up. It swallowed Gaara, and then Deidara leapt on top of it as the bird took flight. Naruto's mouth thinned into a line as he made a split-second decision. "Kakashi, I'm going after him. Follow quickly." Before Kakashi could say anything, Naruto had sprinted out of the cave. The silver-haired Jonin sighed in aggravation and made a split-second decision. With Neiji's specialty, Sakura and Chio Basama would have an easier time with Sasori. "Guy. Lee. Come with me. Neji and Tenten, assist Sakura and Chio Basama." With that, he too exited the cave, with Guy and Lee close behind. As the three followed Naruto, Guy jumped so that he was right beside Kakashi. "Kakashi, we are out of radio contact now. I don't know how strong Naruto has gotten, but he is up against an S-rank criminal. We show Naruto will be fine." That simple sentence was said with such confidence that Guy looked at his friend. In a second, he was back to serious. "How do you know?" "I won't go into details right now, but you need to trust me." They increased the speed until they were side by side with Naruto. "We need to get Gaara's body out of the way before we fight this guy, Kakashi." "I know," Kakashi replied. "Naruto, can you fight a long-distance opponent? Our test wasn't clear on that aspect for me." A smirk was his answer. "Not a problem for me. I can take him." Lee got fired up right beside him. "Yosh. Then we'll assist you with every ounce of our strength, Naruto-kun." "Thanks Lee, but I've got this." "Don't assist unless absolutely necessary," Naruto told him. Turning to Kakashi, he said, "I just need you to distract him." "Can you do that?" Kakashi made a hand seal to gather his chakra. Naruto watched as the pattern morphed completely. The tomoe spun, connecting at the center to from a strangely connected pinwheel. "Leave it to me. A new Sharingan?" Kakashi nodded. "Yeah, a new one with completely new abilities. You ready?" "I was born ready." Kakashi then turned to Deidara, concentrating all his effort on using his Sharingan. "Kamui." Naruto watched in wonder as the space around Deidara, including himself and his bird, distorted as if someone was squeezing a cloth to take out all the water. The entire area twisted and morphed, inverting on itself. "Holy shit. Too much power for humans. At least Kakashi brat only has one. Naruto snorted. It was highly amusing for Kakashi to be referred as a brat. Kakashi panted from the exertion as he tried to keep his jutsu steady. Above, Deidara panicked as he tried to disengage from whatever hold Kakashi had on him. With one great effort and a disgusting wrench that resulted in the loss of his arm, Deidara was free. Kakashi covered his eye with his hand and grunted. That took out of him more than he expected. He'd never been able to fully control Kamui, but hoped that Naruto took advantage of the opening he provided. He would likely collapse after a second attempt. But Naruto was already gone. Guy and Lee watched as Naruto ambushed Deidara from above, his hand encased in wind, extending to form a blade of almost half his body length. Deidara took the wind blade in Naruto's hand as an attempted attack on his person, so he jumped right off the bird. But Naruto simply swung his hand in a downward arc, cleanly slicing off the bird's head which contained Gaara. Kakashi! Naruto called out sharply. But instead of Kakashi, it was Lee who grabbed the head of the bird, seeing Kakashi was suffering the after effects of using his eye. "I got it, Naruto-kun. Thanks, Lee." He then turned away. He wanted his full focus to be on one of Gaara's killers. Deidara deserved nothing less. That, and he didn't want to see Gaara's dead body. He would have to eventually, but he was putting it off for now. "Hey, so you and me, Jinchuriki?" Naruto just gazed at him impassively. "You are this confident even after losing one arm? Ha! I don't need both of my arms to take out the likes of you," Deidara boasted. But on the inside, he was slightly apprehensive. This Jonin had caught him off guard quite easily, and he might be able to once more. Naruto was the one who made the first move, making a flash step. Deidara jumped to the side the instant he saw Naruto move, to avoid a serious axe kick that would have sent him to the ground by tearing through the branches. Deidara was fast enough to throw some C1 fleas, but not fast enough to see that Naruto had only sent a clone at him. Naruto catches him midair with a punch that spun him violently, sending him painfully to the ground. He tumbled before crashing back first in a tree. Naruto was about to follow up when he saw Deidara grin. Right as Deidara started to swell, Naruto flash-stepped away, not taking any chances. Kakashi and Guy were shocked, but able to react in time, taking Gaara with them. The resulting explosion had a range of nearly 2 kilometers, and the real Deidara whistled from the branch of a tree several miles outside the blast zone. He gave a snort, as if that brat could take me out. He prepared to leave the area, to go back to Sasori and see if he was finished, assist him if he wasn't. But just as he turned, his instincts suddenly screamed at him to move out of the way. But his body was a bit slow to obey that command, for a foot connected right with his chest. All the air left his lungs in a huff, and he plummeted to the ground. Naruto watched with a frown as the Deidara he kicked dissolved into mud. He craned his neck upwards, like his senses dictated him, and saw Deidara high up, and a clay bird flying towards him, though not as large as the one he was riding on before. He formed a hand seal and shouted, "Katsu!" The bird exploded and engulfed the entire tree in fire. Deidara smirked, right before being literally grappled and thrown off the branch. With one hand, he couldn't shake off the grip on his person. A voice tinged with dark amusement reached his ears. "You're not getting off that easy." With that, Naruto exploded. There was only smoke in the clearing, before Deidara walked out from a bush. He had substituted with a broken branch, but was late by a second. His clothes were singed, and there were a few burns on him. But he had a smile on his face. He uses explosions. He could appreciate an enemy who respected his art. He then moved around the clearing, placing his next trap. He finished just in time to see Naruto walking out from behind a tree. Naruto walked out from behind a tree, his sight trained solely on Deidara. His senses told him that this was the original one. "Looks like he has a penchant for frequently using Kawarimi and suicide clones," Naruto analyzed as he stood right in front of Deidara. Tactics that a long-distance fighter would use. Even with one hand, he is still able to mold enough clay for a destructive suicide clone of that magnitude. And now he's turned the clearing into a minefield. The smallest of smirks appeared on his face. "But there's no escape now. I have you marked for death, asshole." "Say, what's that weird contraption on your left eye?" Naruto called out. Deidara gave a smug smirk. "I trained my left eye to counter genjutsu, specifically the ones that come from Uchiha. Even if that bastard puts a genjutsu on me, this eye will see the truth." "I doubt Itachi even needs to go that far to take you down," Naruto mentally snorted. Out loud, he said, "So Itachi fucks with your head too?" Deidara laughed. This guy was really something else. Yeah, but that's not the point. He pointed a finger at Naruto with a grin that conveyed how happy he was. You also use explosion as an art, Jinchuriki. Well, I wouldn't say that Bunshin Daibakua is an art. I use it more or less to catch enemies off guard. My Bakuyaku Rasengan, that's what I would call an art. Deidara almost laughed in delight. An enemy who agreed with him that explosion was an art. He almost felt bad because he would have to retreat for now and come back for him later. He was about to tell him to show it when he paused, seeing Naruto shake his head. RTH it. What was that? I said you're not worth it. Oh, that crossed a line. This asshole of a Konoha thought that he, Deidara, the mad bomber of Iwa, was not worthy of seeing his art? You have some nerve, Deidara whispered in simmering anger. Then he burst. Don't think too high of yourself, you bastard. At first I thought you were an artist like myself, but now I see it. You're just an imposter who insults artists like myself because you couldn't become one. With my art, I don't give a flying fuck about your art, Deidara. That further incensed Deidara. What the fuck did you say? Naruto just stood there with his arms crossed. He wasn't very good at taunting his opponents, but this one seemed to be working. You and your art are of no importance to me. But what is important to me? He slowly pointed a finger at the other blonde, is the price on your head. Deidara was literally shaking in rage by now. You'll pay for that, Jinchuriki, he spoke in a whisper. You'd be dead before you have a chance, Naruto returned easily. Why you? Deidara moved to form the hand seal to activate the mines, when his eyes went wide. He slowly looked down, to see the tip of a kunai sticking out of the right side of his chest. The blood that began to flow from the stab drenched his clothes, and then he heard it behind him. I told you, didn't I? You'd be dead before you have a chance. The kunai was retracted sharply, and Deidara world exploded in pain. He fell to his knees, hand pressed to his wound in an attempt to stop the flow of blood. But he knew he'd been had. The kunai had pierced through his lung, and likely cut an artery, and now the blood was leaking into his lungs. He was falling, and angled himself so he would fall on his back. How? Naruto just lifted the kunai by the ring, allowing Deidara to see the formula written on the handle of the strikingly familiar kunai. He went into shock as the dots connected as to what happened. Impossible. You can. Naruto leaned forward, just inches from Deidara's face. When you reach the afterlife, say hello to my dad for me. To think that he was killed by the damned Yellow Flash's brat. Oh, the humiliation. Deidara was a child when his family was taken away in the Third Great War, by the Yellow Flash. He had been so angry at Namikaze, that he'd resolved to keep hating the man until he died. He'd even promised himself that he would never die by the hands of anyone who was even remotely like the Namikaze. And now, he was taken down by a Namikaze, just like his family was. It was as if the fates were laughing at him. His last thought before he died was that he didn't even get to use his greatest art. Naruto watched dispassionately as Deidara stopped moving. That was for Gaara, you son of a bitch, he whispered. He then moved forward and made to sever the head for collecting the bounty, when he remembered. He had to first give it to the village, who would then send the body for checking and collecting the bounty. Taking out a sealing scroll and his pen, he created a seal to carry the dead body in a minute. Sealing Deidara up, he stood up, releasing a large sigh. Very impressive, I have to say, Kakashi complimented as he joined Naruto along with Guy and Lee. Maybe for you, but that was somewhat disappointing, Naruto said apathetically. Well, I guess, when you beat a Sannin, very little tends to impress you, Kakashi reposted. That was a great battle, Naruto. Guy flashed him a grin with a thumbs up. But Lee took it to the next level. Yoosh. I had thought that by training myself hard in the past 3 years, I would be able to beat you. But by seeing you in this glorious battle, I can see that I have much further to go. I will match your flames of youth, Naruto-kun. Well spoken, Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. There came the disturbing sunset. Naruto was sure even Deidara and I wouldn't have been able to break this one. In fact, he would have been traumatized forever. His smile disappeared as he grew somber. Now that the battle was over, it was time to count the casualties. And the first name that came to his mind was. We need to get to the others. I had Lee take the body to them, Kakashi quietly said, seeing Naruto's eyes swimming with grief. But let's go, Naruto agreed quietly. XXXXXXX. They found everyone in a long stretch of grassland. Neji's face was blank, and Tenten's was showing sadness. Naruto met Sakura's eye, and he closed his eyes for a moment to center himself. When she looked away from him, she had obviously failed to bring Gaara back. Being the pragmatist he had expected as such and never raised his hopes. Which was why he wondered whether it was a good thing to feel almost little to no remorse for the death of his brother-in-law. This might be the only time you get to mourn. Don't waste it. As always, Kurama's advice was correct. Naruto walked ahead of Kakashi and the group, right beside Gaara. His bodily motions were slow as he sat down, Indian style, and took Gaara's hand in his own. It was stone cold, as one would expect of a dead body, but it only drove the point home that Gaara was gone. Forever. A single tear slipped out of his eye, his pained expression not changing in the slightest. Suddenly, a terrible thought struck him. Oh God! What will I tell Temari? He had promised his wife that he would bring her brother back, by any means necessary. He hated himself for breaking that promise, and he hated his own mind for bringing it up, that technically, he had never specified whether Gaara would be dead or alive. He already had a strong suspicion that Gaara won't return alive from this mission, and he didn't have the courage to tell it to Temari, for she would have fallen into depression if she knew that it was the most realistic scenario. The one that had 9-10 chances of happening. And now she will. His traitorous mind whispered. God, was it possible to hate yourself for being right about these kinds of things? Chio stared at the silently mourning blonde. His breathing was surprisingly normal for one who had tears flowing from his eyes, which were blankly staring at Gaara's face. Seeing what her grandson had become and then seeing him die was difficult, but not as much she had expected. What was harder to believe was that he had taken another Kazekage from Suna for selfish purposes. Gaara had been a good Kazekage, despite his difficult upbringing. Not powerful as his predecessors just yet, but he had potential. He had won the admiration of Suna in spite of everything he had suffered due to being Suna's Jinchuriki. She had expected that one day, things would reach a breaking point and Gaara would just snap, giving his father the reason to kill him. Instead, Konoha's own Jinchuriki defeated him, fixed his seal and made Gaara see reason that killing everyone in his path did not prove his existence. Now that she had met him, Chio could see why Temari loved and admired him so much, and why Gaara held him in a regard that he held no one else in. Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto had a will and strength in him that was rarely ever seen in the world. She took a few steps forward, kneeling by Naruto. She nudged him, gruffly whispering, "Step aside, boy." She may not have been able to give Sasori at least one of his parents back, but she would try her hardest to do something right for once, and give Suna its Kazekage back. The voice broke him out of his trance, and his anger bubbled to the surface when he realized just how much suffering Gaara had to take because of this woman. His facial muscles creased into a glare, which was made even more expressive by his red eyes and flowing tears. "Wasn't making him suffer in life enough for you, that you want him to suffer in death as well?" he hissed. He was pleased to see her flinch at his remark, but she only steeled herself and repeated her order. "Move aside." "Naruto." Sakura softly spoke, putting a hand on his shoulder. Naruto took a deep breath and stood up, giving Chio some room. He saw her place her hands on Gaara's chest, and after a pause, Chio's chakra became visible in a ripple of power. "What is she doing that you haven't done, Sakura?" Naruto questioned, eyeing Chio curiously. "She's bringing Gaara back to life," Sakura firmly stated, yet Naruto detected a hint of sorrow in her voice. He turned his eyes back to Chio, this time with a calculative look. He had no idea such a technique existed, but there was no doubt in his mind that it carried an equally great risk. Bringing someone back to life? What could be the risk equal to that? Try throwing your own life away for an answer. Naruto immediately understood. So Chio was basically trading one life for another. He almost felt bad for snapping at her earlier now. Then he noticed that the glow around her hands had dimmed considerably. She was running out of chakra. He walked around Gaara and sat down, placing his hands on hers. She looked at him with surprise, but he only looked at her with a determined look. "Take mine. I've got enough," he instructed. She nodded wordlessly, and drew on his power. The glow returned, this time brighter and stronger as Naruto's chakra, highly potent and brimming with life force, flowed from him into the jutsu. Chio knew that the Uzumaki had special chakra, but knowing it and feeling it were two completely separate things. With Naruto's help, it almost seemed easy to bring Gaara back to life. It was a mild surprise though, to also feel the Kyuubi's chakra within. Now she could see why Gaara respected him so much. "Listen to this old woman, child." Chio's voice called out to Naruto, who merely shifted his eyes back to her from Gaara. Chio did not look up, but continued speaking. In this world, the world made by many old people, it does my heart good to see someone like you in it. In my time, mistake after mistake became a never-ending cycle that had no escape for me. But now, in my very last moments, I feel glad to be doing something right. For Suna and Konoha, I hope the future will change into something that I lived in. Make a better world than ours, Naruto. I know you can do it. And you, Sakura, next time, you focus on protecting your precious people instead of risking your life for an old woman like me. Never let your spirit break, and you will become someone even greater than your master. Sakura's eyes were welling up with tears, but she still gave a smile to Chio's back. Chio's posture began to slump as the glow slowly faded. Eventually, after a full minute, the glow disappeared and she slumped completely, but was caught by Sakura in time. Naruto, however, was much more preoccupied with watching any signs of life on his friend's body. His hand twitched first. Naruto's gaze snapped to it and focused on it like a hawk. Something rose in his chest when the twitch slowly became constant, and ultimately became a fist. Next was Gaara's chest. Naruto's eyes went wide when the vest-covered chest rose up in a deep breath, and went back down. His ears picked up the sound of various footsteps, and in a quick glance he saw a horde of Sunin encircling them, with Temari and Kankuro walking towards him apprehensively. He returns his gaze back to Gaara, who slowly opened his eyes. Where? The sound brought a wave of relief into Naruto, who almost fell back on his butt. He cupped the back of Gaara's head and raised it up, resting it on his thigh. Gaara? Naruto, Gaara muttered, before turning his head around and seeing the Suna shinobi. What the? Naruto wholeheartedly chuckled, tears dropping from his eyes. He let Gaara sit on his own, and then gazed into his eyes. The eyes that he shared with his sister. Don't die on me next time. Because if you do, Naruto's voice slightly broke here, I would never be able to look your sister in the eye. Gaara's eyes went wide at the heartfelt revelation. Naruto just gave him a tight smile before standing up and offering a hand. Gaara was still trying to make sense of just what was going on, but gratefully took the hand. Naruto pulled Gaara up easily, and then the Suna shinobi started cheering loudly. Kankuro stepped forward, grinning in joy. As your older brother, looks like I've no choice but to keep my little brother out of trouble from now on. Temari just stepped forward and pulled Gaara into a hug, because she was sure she would just burst into tears if she started speaking. She pulled back and smirked at Kankuro. You had better. And he's still the Kazekage, so show some respect. Naruto put an around Gaara's shoulders, pulling him into his side. He smiled at Temari. I told you we would get him back. Temari gave a tight smile, eyes still wet from tears. I know. Kazekage-sama, next time we'll definitely get you out of whatever mess you're in. Two squealing girls converged on Gaara, and would have hugged him to death again if their attempt to shove off Naruto had been successful. As it was, Naruto merely looked at the girl with disdain and annoyance. The girl suddenly became nervous and blushed heavily when she realized how strong Naruto was if his biceps were any indication. She had put in quite some force in that push. While Naruto was annoyed and merely stared her into nervousness, Temari was much more active in her approach. She tapped Mitsuri's arm and almost hissed like a cat. Hands off. Naruto found her possessiveness quite cute. After that, a more solemn mood took hold over the atmosphere. Sakura held Chio close as her brother stood over them, looking silently at his dearly departed sister. The mood of the entire group of ninjas turned grave as one by one they all looked towards the fallen elder. Naruto spoke quietly to Kankuro. So that jutsu, only Chio knew it, because it required a sacrifice? A life sacrifice? Kankuro nodded solemnly. The sacrifice of one's own life force. Long ago there was a study looking into giving puppet life which Chiyo-sama lead. However, upon finding out the risk was perhaps even greater than the reward, it was sealed and labeled a kinjutsu, a forbidden technique, before experimentation could be done. So Kurama had hit the bullseye. The elder man spoke. I keep expecting her to wake up and say, I'm just playing dead, but it's hard to believe it's the end. She has such a peaceful expression on her face now. Naruto's attention was brought back to Gaara as the others started to stand. Without a word, Naruto got up and braced Gaara's arm with a hand. Slowly, they walked over to Chio where Gaara commanded a prayer for Chio. Silence swept over the land. The moment of silence was brief, yet impactful. Naruto looked up, in the direction from which Suna Shinobi came. Life has to go on, and the Kazekage must return to his village. The journey was mostly silent, with Chio being given full honor and respect that she deserved. Naruto supported Gaara throughout the entire journey, and that just made Temari love him even more. When the gates of Suna came into view, the welcoming party was so loud and full of life, so boisterous that it left Gaara speechless. "Someday, I want the people of my village to welcome me like that," Naruto said with a smile. Then he quickly added, "without dying, that is." It took 2 days to arrange Chio's funeral, which Naruto spent talking and catching up with Gaara, explaining to him that he was completely out of contact with everyone except his Hokage. After the funeral, the Konoha teams, along with Temari, prepared to return. Gaara had a soft smile as he stared up to Naruto. Naruto was a good head taller than him now. "Looks like I'm in your debt once more." Naruto shook his head with a smile. "Family doesn't owe each other, Gaara." Gaara's lips twitched upwards, before he turned to Temari. "Now that Naruto's back, your visits will decrease, but do visit from time to time." Temari softly smiled before nodding. "I will." Gaara turned back to Naruto, extending a hand. Naruto eyed the hand, before grabbing it and pulling Gaara into a surprising hug. "Naruto," Neji hissed. "Show some respect. He's the Kazekage." Naruto batted away his comment. "He's my brother-in-law, so shut it." Slowly, Gaara's hands came up to wrap around his back, in a firm grip. The hug lasted for 10 seconds, before they slowly pulled away. Naruto took a few steps back. "I'll keep in touch, Gaara. That would be nice." They wave each other one last goodbye before finally turning around and walking back to Konoha. Naruto's chest tingled, and it was the good kind of tingle. He felt he'd accomplished something of importance, and it felt good. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.